All right. Welcome, everybody, to the Horror Comedy Hangout podcast. My name's Chris.
I'm Jessica.
Yes. And we have another episode for you this evening. Yay. Yes. This is going to be another review.
Woohoo.
What are we reviewing tonight?
We are reviewing Lisa Frankenstein.
Yay, Lisa Frankenstein.
Wait, hold on. We have to kick this off right, though, because we keep messing it up. So,
I know. We forgot last time.
Yeah.
So we want to cheers.
Cheers. Kick it off with our favorite drink. Of course, it can be alcoholic or non-alcoholic.
Mm-hmm. It was funny because the last episode that we did was an episode that, not an episode, but a film that we reviewed was 10 years old.
Maybe we're going to name this one Going Downhill.
Going Down. That's right.
Yeah, we did. We reviewed a movie, not an episode.
Yes, we reviewed a movie that was 10 years ago, back in 2014. This one's a little more recent.
This is a lot more recent. This is
this year.
Yeah. Was it this year?
It was. It was.
Oh, wow. It was the beginning of this year then.
Yeah, beginning of this year, 2024, when the Lisa Frankenstein came out. I have IMDb pulled up over here. Mm-hmm. So a little bit about that. It's a coming of rage story, which I love, rage instead of age.
Yeah.
Story about a teenager and her crush who happens to be a corpse. Yeah. Horror comedy. Get it? Yeah.
Yeah.
After a set of horrific circumstances bring him back to life, the two embark on a journey to find love, happiness, and a few missing body parts.
Bum, bum, bum.
Yes. Yeah. That's why makes it the horror part of it, right? The comedy and the horror.
Yeah, and there's a few other things that make it horror now too.
Yeah. So a little bit about this, and then we'll get into the discussion about everything about this. This was written by Diablo Cody. Mm-hmm. She's done a lot. She's done a ton. She's done. She did Jennifer's Body, which has actually. It started out slow, but just like some of those movies that you like, they just gained that cult following. Mm-hmm. So she's gained that cult following.
Yeah, that's with Megan Fox.
Yeah, with Megan Fox, and then before that, she did Juno back in 2017, which I actually read that screenplay. Being a screenwriter and a filmmaker, I read that screenplay, and it was a really good screenplay. And I watched the movie. And
it won an award.
It won an Oscar for Best Original Screenplay. So she's a good writer.
Yeah,
I would assume so. She's a good writer. So, and then it's directed by Zelda Williams. And if you recognize that name, that's
Robin Williams' daughter.
Robin Williams' daughter. And this is her directorial debut. She did some music videos, but nothing on film yet.
Yeah. For being her first one.
I think she did great. And I think we should talk about that coming up too, because that's been discussed a lot. Her directorial debut and how her style was, and coming in this being her new, being the first time she was a first-time filmmaker, director, having such a style and knowing where she wanted to go with it, being so new. So that was very impressive as well. The name Lisa Frankenstein, which I learned a little bit more. Lisa Frank is a popular design company.
It was. Oh, that was back during my generation.
Oh, yeah.
I completely forgot about that.
Yeah. So it comes from that. I mean, they did stickers and clothing and all that stuff.
They did. I used to love the stickers. It was like bright, colorful, total 80s kind of stickers.
Correct.
Like 80s, 90s stickers.
So you can see where it comes from with the movie.
Yeah.
And then, of course,
about that.
And then, of course, Frankenstein, the longtime
monster
that's been back from Mary Shelley's day when she wrote. You know, the funny part with this movie is they call it horror comedy, but I think it's a little more comedy. It has some horror. So
yeah, and definitely, I think like the horror is not as beefed up as like other horror movies, but I think it's got the perfect amount.
Right.
It's not too much. It's not too little.
Right. And I think that's what they call, I don't think, but I know there's that gateway horror. They call it gateway horror. It's kind of that introduction into horror. When people start watching horror, it's kind of eases you into the horror genre by kind of not shoving that bloodiness down your throat too much.
It's like the perfect horror movie for me.
Yeah. So if you're kind of in the middle between like I don't like super horror and I like a romantic comedy, then I think this is
a perfect balance.
I think that's a perfect balance. So it's because it's not as scary. It's kind of more funny.
Yeah. I've seen this movie 3 or 4 times now.
Yeah. And that's what Diablo Cody said. She was, because Juno was is a comedy drama. Jennifer's Body is a horror comedy. And then this is another horror comedy. And I've seen interviews where she said she just doesn't know how not to infuse that comedy into a movie. So, and I relate to that being a writer and a horror comedy writer as well. It's just like, I like to infuse comedy in it. I did it as an actor. I would infuse comedy in everything I saw. I'm like, oh, I read a script. I'm like, I can put comedy in that. So I get where she comes from that. But this one stars Catherine Newton,
Cole Sprouse,
and Cole Sprouse. Catherine's from many things, but another one was which we'll review down the line is Freaky with Vince Vaughn. Have you seen that, right?
Yeah, I've seen that a couple times.
Yeah, so that's another good one. We'll review that down the line too.
Yeah, it's super good movie.
But I think she did a really good job. She got a lot of praise for the character that she did do. I felt her character, her plight, her misguided youth kind of thing. Cole Sprouse that you mentioned.
Yeah.
When we watched this, you had brought him up because you knew of him.
Yeah, from younger, because he and his twin did The Sweet Life of Zach and Cody. So I used to watch that when I was a lot younger.
He goes way back.
So he goes way back.
Okay.
And then he kind of fell off for a while, as far as I know. And then I recently saw him come back into acting with the new one. Oh gosh, it just slipped my mind.
I know he did Riverdale. Is that what you're thinking?
Yes, that's Riverdale. Yeah.
He did a ton of Riverdale.
Which I think Riverdale just did its last season too.
I think so too.
Yeah.
But the funny thing with Cole in this movie is really has no lines.
Oh, zip, zero, zilch.
He has a whatever,
he
and
just
then
moans and groans.
Moans and groans, and then at the end, he does have a couple lines, but
that's it.
But he did a really good job at that, right? Did you agree?
Because I feel like if you're acting, like you've got to have something to go off of, and he really had to play his character up, especially with all the moans and the groans and the sounds, and then it was also like body gestures and language.
A lot of body gestures, which it's funny they mentioned that. Is I saw an interview with him, and he said that he worked with a mime.
Oh.
To get all those body movements down and everything. So, these actors, they go into...
Yeah, they go into different fields to figure out how to play a character.
They go fully into it.
Yeah, which I thought he did a really good job of giving with what he had to work with.
Right. No, I agree. Yeah. And then I forget the name who the girl who plays her stepsister in it, but then there's Carla Gugino. Gugino.
Sorry for mispronouncing it.
Yeah, sorry, Carla, you're not watching this, but everybody in
case you ever do.
But all your fans out there, which I'm one of her fans, she's just been in a ton of stuff, and I really like her work as well. And then she said she read the script and was hooked from the moment she read the script.
Yeah, she did really good playing this.
She plays that evil stepmother, that classic evil stepmother, where she is just full of herself and everybody else is just fall around her to bend for her.
Yeah.
And she doesn't like Lisa, which is the main character of the
Catherine Newton's.
Yeah. She does not like her at all and gives her
so much grief.
It gives her hell through the whole the whole film. But then obviously Lisa, not obviously, but just for everybody out there to know, this is her stepmom because her mom was killed in front of her by an axe murder, home invasion.
Yeah.
So that's how Lisa ends up with this family, stepsister, stepmom, stepdad, all that.
Yeah, her dad marries.
Her dad, it's not her stepdad, but it's her dad.
Yeah, her dad marries.
So she ends up in this family and she's that misfit kind of
I feel like she's just kind of trying to figure out where she fits into society or to life, and she's just kind of lost now.
Yes, I think that's that typical teenage.
Yeah.
That's why I like when I did Little Z, my Saving Little Z, it's like she is a zombie, but she also is a teenager trying to figure out herself. So I feel like it's the same thing. It's like you're trying to figure out who you are with that thing. So not to get sidetracked just yet, but so the big thing with Lisa is, she's lonely, doesn't have any friends, doesn't have a boyfriend, anything like that. So she goes to this local cemetery where she spends a lot of time. It's a dilapidated cemetery that nobody really cares about. Cares about or pays attention to. She kind of just hangs out with this headstone of this guy from the 1800s or 1700s, something like that.
Yeah, somewhere in there.
So she hangs out with him a lot.
Talks to him.
She does grave rubbings where you rub paper and you
pencil,
the tracings of that too. So she's looked at. It's very weird when she does all that. So she kind of has this connection with this guy, but he has been dead for
years,
for a long time.
Ooh.
Yes.
But it's cool because I think in the beginning of the movie, it kind of tells his backstory too, and how he got to be put in his grave.
That was one of the things that I had was like, did he really know his backstory? Do we really know his backstory?
Yeah, I explained it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
it was a love affair.
He was in a love affair before.
Yeah.
With one person.
Yeah. I think she might have been married.
Okay.
I don't know. It was bad.
Okay. No, I was just curious.
And then he died. A young guy.
He did die a young guy.
Because he comes back a young.
But that was one of my complaints is I think, and other people have complained about him having a bigger backstory because we know a lot about her because it's told through Lisa's
eyes, basically.
Lisa's POV of that whole thing.
But I think if you don't pay attention in the beginning or you don't see the movie at least a couple times, you kind of don't catch on to like they're telling his story. They just don't deep dive into his story. It's like one of those things where you're going to have to read between the lines of his past and who he is. And then as you go through the movie and she performs certain acts, shall we say? No,
we don't have to say.
No, but then we'll give it away of what goes on.
It's funny because her stepsister won Miss Hawaiian Tropic, Junior Miss Hawaiian Tropic, and she wins a tanning bed, which this tanning bed becomes a very key piece of the
puzzle
of when lightning strikes his grave and he comes back to life. He does come back to life. It's which a lot of people complain about that too, but that's been done before with Jason.
In the tanning bed, he comes back to life?
No. His grave gets struck by lightning.
Oh, that's why I was like, wait a minute, did I miss that part?
No. He comes back to life after his grave gets struck by lightning, which has been done in Jason. Jason Lives. His grave gets struck by lightning, and Jason comes back. Time. Just saying, it's been done before. So all those critics out there that have complained that, like,
Yeah, but I think it's the people like me who don't normally pay that much close attention to true horror movies, would be sitting here saying, "Oh, I don't remember that part in Jason."
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a fresh take on. To me, it's a fresh take on all of it. I mean, yes, I am from the '80s, so it does have a lot of great '80s colors, '80s references. Obviously, it is from the '80s.
80s
neon. So yeah, the costume design was really good.
Costume design was amazing.
That's why Zelda Williams got a lot of praise. I mean, she
nailed that.
The set design, the costume, the look. It's a very stylized film. So I feel like somebody that's so new into their career to come out with such a stylized film, she's got a career.
And I feel like even down to like the nitty gritty details of the house and the bedroom, it was like anywhere you went off of looking at the main characters and paid attention to other things around.
Right.
It was like she nailed it all.
That pink house, that was another thing I watched in the interview, is that's a real house.
Is it really?
Yeah, they had found another house and then this one came available. And there's actually a family that lives there and it's really pink. The pink outside and pink inside. I know, it's not the house I'd want.
It's like Pepto-Bismol threw up in there.
Right. I mean, it works great.
I mean, no offense, people, but that's too much pink.
It works great for that kind of aesthetic. Yeah. So, and it's funny because that house, when she goes to it's not that house, but the house that she has goes to a party.
Oh yeah.
And then she walks out and then ends up into the grave. She walks out of that house and it goes to like, there's pieces of furniture and the piece of furniture disappear until she's in the grave site. And I'm like, it's that kind of stylized thing that, as a director, you're like, oh, this is what I want to do with this scene is I want to take, I want her to walk out of the house. We don't see her walk out of the house. And then all of a sudden the house just falls away and she's in the grave site. So it's that kind of stylized stuff that I really, really, really like.
Yeah. It was a little bit different take.
Yeah. And what do you, I feel like to me with this movie, like any other, because I like to write these kind of teenage things, as
you do.
A lot of these things end up being like teenage drama in a way, but with horror. What do you feel like is the through line through this? What was she was trying to find love, or just feeling like she was that lost soul that everybody, I think as a teenager you're trying to find that.
I think well, I guess being a teenage girl, if I go back way back, I feel like you're trying to find love, you're trying to find yourself, you're trying to find out where you fit in. But I think most of all for her, for this movie, I think it was just trying to find somebody that she could resonate with, somebody that she had some commonality in with. And then it just kind of grew from there when she, met Cole's character, the swamp monster, basically.
Swamp monster. He's called the creature.
Yeah, well, he definitely pulled off the creature look because goodness gracious. Yeah,
he did in the beginning.
I definitely feel like she was probably just looking for somebody to have that companionship with, and then it kind of turned into this murderous love.
Yeah, which I'm sure, that's not uncommon, right? Right. That seems to be, right. I mean, you watch it on TV all the time with the true crime stuff.
I love my true crime.
Yeah.
I mean, it's total like a crime of passion movie.
Yeah.
That's why I like it so much. It's got murder, love, a little bit of sex. Perfect. Right up my alley.
There wasn't much, but I mean, it's yes. Yeah. So, I mean, that's what I'm saying. It's like, and I think we'll go into that, but the complaints about it was the typical 80s tropes and horror tropes and teenage angst and all that stuff. But I when I watched it initially was like, this is something fresh. To me, I felt fresh because there's so much that's so copycatted. And I feel like I didn't feel like that coming from a filmmaker's standpoint or a audience standpoint. I didn't feel like it was.
I felt like it was fresh because, I mean, quote me say if I'm wrong, but I've never heard of a Lisa Frankenstein or like a female Frankenstein. I think that's like the name and the title just was like,
right. And I think that's what a lot of people,
because if you think about it realistically, and I know we've talked about this off screen, there's not many female serial killers. It's very few and far between. So I get both sides, but I think that's, something that's not been done too much.
True. And I think that was one of even the people that I've watched that have complained about it, that was one of their positive things is that, she's a strong female character that goes from this weak character into this stronger character and becomes that.
Yeah, she's almost like borderline just sociopath too.
She is I would say she was sociopath.
I would definitely say.
At this point. But she still has this endearing character because you're rooting for her.
Yeah. You can't help but not root for her.
Yeah, you are rooting for her.
Yeah, totally are.
What were the other? I think there was a couple other complaints that I had here. The tropes. Oh, one of the complaints that I actually had was when he first meets Cole Sprouse's character, the creature. He just comes in, lightning strikes his gravesite. He walks into her house, and they kind of have this chase around the house, which is kind of funny,
like a cat and mouse game.
Yeah, and she's scared because he's chasing around, and all of a sudden he just collapses. And I felt like it should be more like, and then they go up to the room and he points to his etching, and then the beads that she puts on him at the grave, he has on. And I thought that should have been earlier on, because to me, I get it that she's a little off kilter a little bit, but
yeah,
if somebody breaks into your house that looks like you keep saying that it looks like, I would not totally accept him right away unless there was some connection, and they don't have the connection after she invites him up to the bedroom. So I was like, oh, well, maybe if he had been like, here's my beads, and she'd be like, oh, the beads. But you're from the grave.
Yeah. So, okay. That's interesting that you're seeing it that way. Because I guess for me is like, this is maybe like my lack of creativity too, is I couldn't have seen that scene go any different in a way. I guess because, them chasing around. And it was kind of comical. But if if he'd have just shown up and just handed her the beads, the scene would have been killed. Like,
if they just chased each other around, he'd collapse.
And then just holds up the beads, like sits up and holds the beads. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, just so she feels like, oh, okay, this is what this is about.
Okay. I get you. Well, I kind of like the way it was done, but
No, I know. I'm not against it. I was just
I'd have to I'd have to go back and watch it and see if I like it now. Because I like the scene, but I think it's a minor complaint. The other complaints were that we don't have enough of Cole's backstory of
the creature's backstory, and then the characters don't really go in any place anywhere. But I feel like, and I get it, I feel like as a writer too, and we don't know what happened in the editing or anything like that, or what the studio did, even though it was a smaller film. But as a writer, yes, you want to have this dramatic, you want to have a definite shift from when they start to when they end.
Yeah.
But I still feel like she did a transformation, because even you saw her and her stepsister switch. Her stepsister was this confident, model Hawaiian Tropic. And then by the end, she's this lump of whatever.
Mush.
And then, Lisa is more confident, and her and Cole become very confident and a strong couple.
Yeah.
So I feel like there is this transformation. Maybe the critics are just haters. I don't know. It's just
that could be it.
About that. But those are some of the critiques. But for me, and I know you, we loved it.
Yeah, we did.
I watched it a couple times, and it's not this. Obviously, it's not Juno. It's not an Oscar-winning screenplay.
No.
Or movie or anything like that. But it's this fun film that's a little different. If you like romantic comedy, teenage angst comedy, with a little bit of horror in it, and from the 80s, then I think it's something that you'll like, right?
Yeah. I think so.
I think so too.
I think it'd be like even a perfect, cute couple Halloween costume.
What would you rate it? 1 to 10?
Oh.
1 to 10 on your entertainment value, you being the audience member.
I would probably give it an 8.
An 8?
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
I liked it. I think it's super cute. I think it's good acting. Especially, I think I give it an 8 because of Cole Sprouse's acting. And just how much he had to give. And then Catherine Newton had to play off of all of that. Which to me, that would be extremely hard, playing off somebody's moans and groans. And
yeah, that's very intuitive.
And I think
to say that, because
I also give it an 8 because of the whole, the set, the costume design. It just, you literally feel like you're back in the 80s.
Yeah.
And I'm a late 80s baby, but.
Right. I mean, I didn't really think of it that way, but as an actor back in the day, if somebody's not giving you something, it's so much harder to work against.
Yeah.
He was giving stuff, but it's not
dialogue, yeah,
or anything like that. So it's a whole nother way of thinking, I think, to try to work off to that. And we have other movies. There's another one called Willy's Wonderland. I don't know if you've seen that one. That is a Nick Cage movie, and he says 0 lines in the whole thing.
Yeah.
But it's good. So we'll review that one as well. I think that's definitely fits into the horror comedy as well. So that kind of reminded me of that one, because that's the reason Nicolas Cage took that movie, is because
there's no lines.
He's no lines.
He wanted to do
remember
your lines.
It's easy. He wanted it easier to remember lines. Yeah. I don't think he has a problem remembering his lines, but he wanted to.
No, he definitely doesn't.
He don't want to have to.
I mean, shoot, that's an easy day at work. Just make some few sounds and.
Right. It was a very physical role, but he can be physical at times. So yeah, I think probably 7 and 8 as well. Now that you say that, with Cole being that way, I was like, okay.
That's for me looking as like a hole in the movie. Not a hole in the movie, but a hole as.
There's not a hole in the movie. Did you have any issues with anything in there?
Oh gosh, don't ask me this question. I'm very an observant person, so I think I got a lot of what they were trying to put in the movie, especially like his background. You have to pay attention because it does give his history. I think it's in the beginning credits, I could swear.
With the cartoon part of it?
Yeah, with the cartoon part of it.
Okay. All right, I'll have to go back and watch that. When you watch the beginning, make sure that you're paying attention to that, because that's Cole's background, apparently.
Yeah, it's Cole's background. If you pay attention to the movie.
Okay.
But yeah, I look at the nitty-gritty details. So I think I watch films a lot differently.
All right. Okay, and then I like to give tips as a writer, if any writers are out there, because I've been listening to the Science Screenwriting. It's a audiobook that I've been listening to. And then this came up. This is from David Mamet, the screenwriter. When he was doing The Unit, the TV show The Unit, when he was running that show, he got a little upset at his screenwriting team because they weren't writing very well. He didn't think they were writing very well. So he wrote this long email to them, and everything was in caps, all in caps. So he was like yelling at them about this. So he was definitely not happy with the way they were writing. So in the science of screenwriting, they had his example, and this was a chapter called Cause and Effect. And this is just excerpts from his rant that he went on. So as a screenwriter, any scene thus does not both advance the plot and stand alone, that is dramatically by itself on its own merits, is either superfluous or incorrectly written. Okay? Start every time with this rule. The scene must be dramatic. It also must start because the hero has a problem, and it must culminate with the hero finding him or herself either thwarted or educated that the other way exists. So that first one, any scene that thus does not both advance the plot and stand alone. So just think of when you're writing those scenes, does this scene advance the plot? Does this move the story forward? If not, get rid of it.
Next.
Every time the scene must be dramatic, it must start with the hero has a problem. So just think when you come into the hero has a problem, and then the hero must find his or herself thwarted or educated another way. So even though you're writing a big script, each scene problem, was it fixed or just moved it forward, or there was another way, and then they move out of the scene. So writers must ask themselves every scene of these three questions. So who wants what happens if they don't get it, and why now? Yep. Each scene, which was a big thing for me to learn when I was a screenwriter, because I was like the whole overall picture, but then in like every scene, you're going to break down that. So it's very micro instead of macro.
Tedious.
And very tedious when it comes down to that as well. So it's just something to think about. And thank you for joining us this evening. I hope you enjoyed the review of Lisa Frankenstein and that little
tip and trick
of screenwriting. Yes, we like to give those tip and tricks of filmmaking and
tips
screenwriting.
And tricks.
Yeah, and that's
kind of my famous line, though.
Tips and tricks.
Yeah,
yeah, you've said that before, haven't you?
Like every aspect of any career I've ever had. So many of those who knows us, they'll be like, "Oh, that's Jeff's for sure."
Right. Tips and tricks. So this has been the Horror Comedy Hangout podcast.
Woo, we're nailing that title.
Woo. Join us every other Thursday for another movie review or interview with a creative within the horror comedy space. You can find us on the horrorcomedyhangout.com, the Horror Comedy Hangout YouTube channel, the Horror Comedy Instagram channel, and anywhere you can find your podcasts out there today.
We're basically on every platform, people. Okay.
Yeah. So check us out.
Yeah.
Yes.
We'll just let it.